Hello and welcome to the Climate Action Heroes Challenge. My name's Ellie and I'm going to be taking you through everything you need to know before coming up with an ingenious invention idea. So, Earth happened to be in the right place at the right time. It was the right distance from the sun and has the right amount of water and the right atmosphere, which has all led to life sprouting on Earth. It's the only planet in the whole galaxy with life on it that we know of so far. From deserts to forests, oceans to mountains, our planet is home to the most amazing creatures, great and small, and they are a constant source of wonder to us humans, who are also part of this amazing ecosystem. You've probably heard of the term climate change, but what is it? So, climate change is a change in weather conditions like temperature and rainfall over a long period of time. Scientists across the world have observed that the surface of Earth is warming. And the big difference is that this time, the change in climate is caused by humans over a very short period of time through the emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. This is known as global warming. Global warming is creating big problems for many living things on land and in the ocean, and life is going to become much harder for everyone if we don't change the way we live very soon. Global warming doesn't only mean that the temperature is getting warmer. In some places, it's getting wetter or drier, or the seasons might be shifting earlier or later. So, what's the cause of climate change? Well, the biggest cause of global warming is the use of fossil fuels. They're burned to create energy for heating our homes, driving cars, and running factories. Oil is also the main ingredient used to make plastic. Burning these fuels releases carbon dioxide, also known as CO2, into the air. And having too much carbon dioxide in the air causes the Earth's atmosphere to heat up. The creation of new materials like plastic, while convenient, has caused huge problems in the environment as it doesn't break down fast enough and therefore begins to pile up on Earth. With over 8 billion mouths to feed on Earth and 9 billion expected by the year 2050, how we use Earth's resources for feeding people really matters. Many of the Earth's resources are not endless or create pollution when we use them, and learning how much we give and take is what it means to live sustainably. The impact of climate change means more flooding and more extreme weather. When it rains less often, the earth becomes drier for longer and heavy rain slides off, creating floods. It also means that the quality of the soil decreases, and with it, its ability to grow trees and plants. When trees are drier for longer, this also means more chance of wildfires. We're losing our precious supplies of fresh water with the loss of glaciers and ice caps. And as sea levels rise, we're at risk of losing parts of our land too. Air pollution, plastic pollution, microplastics, oil spills, these are all making the ocean less able to sustain healthy life, and we could risk losing our sources of materials and food. So we know the temperature of the atmosphere is warming up, and it all has an impact on creatures who live or depend on it, like us. It also means ice caps are melting and sea levels are rising. We're losing land and precious resources such as fresh water. Precious habitats such as rainforests and rivers are being destroyed for homes, transport, and resources. These habitats are highly adapted homes for many species of wildlife and vegetation, which will not be able to survive if their habitats are damaged in any way. Human actions like overfishing and dredging the ocean are having hugely negative effects on the environment and further accelerating climate change. Many people think of climate change as something that might happen in the future, but its effects are already beginning to impact people's lives all across the globe. People who live near to the coast and on small islands are experiencing the effects more dramatically than some other places inland. This is due to temperatures increasing and sea levels rising. The islands of Tuvalu in the Pacific Ocean are already on the verge of going underwater. They're home to 11,000 people who have lived there for hundreds of years. Two of the 9 islands are at severe risk of being swallowed up by the sea. If the islands sink, many things will be lost, such as unique cultures, special communities, and homes. The people who live there will have to move to other places where they may not feel like they belong or speak the language. Can you locate Tuvalu Island on a map? I'll give you a tip. Start by locating the South Pacific Ocean and look from there. Islands like this also rely heavily on seafood to eat, so the devastating effects of overfishing can have huge consequences for the people who live here. All of this information can feel pretty overwhelming, but we all have a responsibility to do what we can to tackle the problem of climate destruction. Young people all over the world are taking part in climate strikes and making their voices heard. Governments, businesses, and companies need to change how they create products and deal with them as they create the biggest negative impact on our fragile planet. Countries all over the world need to step up and do their bit to change the way our future looks too. Countries in the Pacific, such as Samoa, have already taken a big leap to ban single-use plastic from 2019, and larger countries like Canada are following their lead by adopting the Oceans Plastics Charter and banning single-use plastic too. All over the world, people are developing inventions that are trying to take better care of Earth's resources. And there are many ways we can approach this. It could be by changing just small things in our everyday lives. So just imagine if just 10% of the world population changed how much water they use to brush their teeth every day. Instead of running the tap, we could just use a small glass of water or turn the tap off between brushing. This could save 16,800,000,000 litres of water every single day. Or if we cut our shower time down from 10 to 5 minutes, we could save thousands of litres of water a year. And the more we combat waste and pollution, the better we can help keep man-made climate change under control. So start by learning some facts about climate change. Then ask yourself a simple question, such as, how could we use less water every day? Then it's over to you to get creative. This is the starting point to any great invention idea. So for the Climate Action Heroes Challenge, there are 2 themes we're going to be covering to inspire you to come up with an amazing planet-protecting invention. So theme 1 is protect biodiversity, and theme 2, invent a more sustainable future. Let's get started. The awesome variety of living things on Earth is known as biodiversity. The more diverse and unique the life on our planet is, the better chance we all have of living long and healthy lives. Every creature helps to keep nature in balance through the eco-food chain, what they eat and sometimes being eaten themselves, and by spreading seeds, microorganisms, and pollen. All of the threats from climate change affect both us and all other life on Earth. So, a habitat has everything in it that a living thing needs to survive. For animals, that means food, water, and shelter. And for plants, that means the right combination of light, air, soil, and water. Over millions of years, each species has become specially adapted to its environment. For example, a cactus has adapted to survive in bright sunlight and hot and dry places like the desert. The right amount of space is very important for an animal to survive. For example, a tiger needs a huge amount of space to roam so it can hunt and find a mate, whereas an ant only needs a few centimeters. An ecosystem is a natural environment and includes the flora, that's the plants, and fauna, that's the animals, that live and interact with the environment. It's like the neighborhood where an animal lives, including both all the things that live there and all of the other physical things in the environment. Flora, fauna, and bacteria are the biotic or living components of the ecosystem. Ecosystems are dependent on the following abiotic or non-living components too. So that's things like climate, soil, and water. And all of the elements are interlinked, meaning that changing one will lead to change in the other. So let's talk a bit about food chains. You've probably heard of a food chain before. And a food chain shows the feeding relationships between organisms within a habitat. So all organisms within an ecosystem depend on each other. The energy moves through the food chain shown by the arrows, And each of the levels is called a trophic level. They always start at the bottom with a producer, such as grass or algae, which use photosynthesis to store energy from the sun as glucose. The primary consumer eats the producer, which is then eaten by the secondary producer, and the energy moves up through the food chain. Animals that are hunted and eaten are prey, and these are consumed by predators. The final consumer at the top of the food chain is called an apex predator and isn't eaten by anything else. Can you think of an example of an apex predator? A food web shows how all of the food chains in an ecosystem interact because most animals eat more than one organism. There are many reasons why biodiversity is hugely important for humans, and here's just a few. Animals and plants can help us to create new medicines. Scientists are discovering new medicines every day from natural sources like corals. And biodiversity helps to feed us. Of course, we eat plants and animals too. But certain crops can be damaged by diseases, so the more food options we have, the better. And biodiversity helps to keep Earth healthy and the weather balanced. Having many different types of animals helps to keep our planet healthy, as they all play different and important roles. For example, did you know that whale poo is critical to ocean health and its ability to absorb CO2 from the atmosphere? Can you name any other ways that biodiversity helps us to live happier and healthy lives? Have you heard of the word indigenous? Indigenous communities around the world have a special relationship with the earth and all living things on it. Indigenous people are the original inhabitants of a place, meaning they lived there before other groups arrived or before the country was formed. They often have their own unique cultures, languages, traditions, and connection to the land. As a class, try and name some examples of Indigenous people. I'll give you an example. The Aboriginal people of Australia. They are taking care of the nature around them and making decisions with the idea that the next 7 generations to come should be able to enjoy the earth in the same way as we are. No overconsumption, no extractive and exploitative ways of living or using natural resources. They live in harmony and respectful balance with their land and the rest of living creatures, and people all over the world can learn valuable lessons from these communities. Some Indigenous communities even see and give the same rights to nature as they do to people. A report in 2019 confirmed that over 1 million plants and animal species are now at risk of extinction as a result of human activities. And here are some of the main reasons why. So many habitats are being destroyed because of the human population growing bigger every year. We need space to grow crops, build houses and roads, but often this is creating conflict with animals or leaving them without a home, which is causing many animals to become endangered, meaning they are at risk of dying out forever. Humans rely on animals to be able to survive, but overfishing, hunting, poaching, and logging are some of the biggest causes of environmental collapse on the planet. Some fish stocks have completely collapsed due to industrial fishing in recent years. The use of pesticides and other chemicals such as fertilizers and plastics pollute soil, water, and air and are wiping out entire ecosystems and even species. Dead zones have formed in oceans and lakes. Climate change and rising temperatures are all having an effect on the seasons, causing mass change and disruption to habitats. Coral bleaching and shifts in animal migration patterns are examples of changes to natural systems due to global warming. There are millions of different types of species on our planet, and each one has been specially adapted over many thousands of years to become a master of its own environment. These ultra specialized adaptations are so advanced that scientists are still discovering more and more every day. The incredible talents of creatures small and mighty can inspire inventions too. How about trying to research an animal adaptation that's inspired an invention, like the kingfisher's beak that inspired the shape of the Shinkansen bullet train? Now it's time for theme 2: invent a more sustainable future. So, what is sustainability? Well, sustainability means having enough resources for everyone to use and it not running out in the future. So that's things like food and water. The population is growing. You can see on the graph on the screen that every year the population is getting bigger and bigger. And today there are already 8.2 billion people on this earth. So the little things that all of us do really add up and make a difference. Many people are also using the word regenerative when talking about ways we can protect the planet. That's because it isn't enough just to sustain the way we're currently living. We need to actively improve the health of our natural world to help repair the damage that's been done to the planet by humans over the past 200 years. There are many examples of regenerative design and agriculture that are helping to bring life back into desolate ecosystems. As a class, you could research some successful examples of regenerative projects. Some examples are coral reef restoration projects, like the Mars Coral Reef Restoration Programme in Indonesia, or here in the UK, the Sussex Kelp Recovery Project. The way we produce and use energy is the biggest reason for climate change on Earth. So we need to think of new ways to make and use energy that won't harm our planet. The problem is that we're using a lot more non renewable energy than anything else. And this means things like fossil fuels. So that's oil, gas, and coal. These are mostly being used to run our factories and power cars and planes. And they are non renewable. So that means there's only a limited amount of them that already exist. And eventually they will run out. To face our future needs, we need to start using renewable resources. So these are ones that won't run out. So that's things like the sun and wind and even the power of the ocean. It's not only that these kind of resources won't run out, they actually cause a lot less damage to the planet by using them as well. Walking, running, driving, cycling, scootering, sailing, flying. People can't ever seem to stay still. While we may have two perfectly good feet, more often than not, we like to get help to get places faster. The way we travel really matters, as different types of transport creates different amount of pollution. And travel can help us discover new parts of the world and meet new people. But we need to invent new ways to travel to help protect our planet. Pause on this slide and take a look at some of the facts. Another huge impact on our planet is rubbish. It's said that 99% of everything we buy goes into the bin within just 6 months. We live in a man made world where everything is wrapped or carried in glass, metal, plastic, or paper. And once we finish using something, we tend to throw it away. But where does it go? Most of our rubbish ends up in landfill or in the ocean, which causes a huge amount of damage to the environment and wildlife that live there. So, recycling is a hugely important thing to do in reducing the amount of rubbish that goes into landfill. However, in reality, only a very small amount of items are actually recycled. So, we need to start thinking about alternative ways to reduce the amount of waste we produce, not just about how we throw it away. But the problem of waste isn't always that visible. When plastic breaks down, it doesn't disappear, but it turns into tiny pieces of plastic that are known as microplastics. And worse, we even purposely produce these microplastics to add them to cosmetics or toothpaste. Our clothes that are made out of synthetic materials like polyester shed them when they're washed. And all of these microplastics are too small to be filtered out of the water we use every day, so they end up in the ocean. Car tyres also leave microplastics on the road, which are washed off by the rain and go straight into lakes and rivers, and of course, eventually the ocean, and are now identified as a source of microplastics in the environment. These microplastics get swallowed up by everything from the smallest plankton to seabirds and even giant blue whales. They have entered the whole natural chain and we are eating it too. And of course, these microplastics are harmful to all living things. Do you know where different materials come from? Paper and cardboard are made from trees. Aluminium and other metals come from rocks in the ground. Plastic is made from crude oil or plants like corn. And glass is made by melting sand. Yes, that's like the sand you find on the beach. But the way we process these materials means that some of them will never go back to their natural state, no matter what we do. Using a lot more natural materials like wood, paper, and beeswax are a great way to reduce waste in landfill, as these materials can break back down into the earth. These types of materials are known as biodegradable, but they can still require a lot of energy to produce in the first place. So, the best thing we can do is think about how we can reuse items or use less in the first place. It can start with shopping power, buying products with less or no packaging, or buying secondhand clothes and furniture, choosing reusable rather than disposable products like reusable water bottles that you might have, borrowing from friends, and being inventive about how to turn old things into something new can all help. Fix It cafes are a great example of a sustainable alternative. They're places where you can bring your broken things and get them repaired, stopping them going into landfill. We definitely need more ingenious ideas about how to deal with rubbish, first to create less of it, and then be really clever with what's left. It's completely normal to get overwhelmed by the challenges we're facing in the world, but it's important to focus on the positive progress that's already happening. The renewable energy sector is on the rise, just like Dogger Bank Wind Farm. Renewables now make up around 30% of global electricity and are the fastest growing energy source in the world. In 2023, Portugal ran on 100% renewable energy for over 6 days in a row. Electric car sales are booming. Nearly 1 in 5 new cars sold globally in 2023 was electric. And countries like Costa Rica are leading the way with nature restoration and showing others what can be done. They have reversed the effects of deforestation and doubled their forest cover since the 1980s. Almost every country has joined the Paris Agreement, aiming to keep global warming well below 2 degrees. And don't forget, we constantly need new ideas on ways to live that reduce emissions and protect natural habitats. And the best way to do that is to invent. Try out these activities before getting started with the Invention Challenge. It will help you warm up your creative juices. So there's Fantasy Food Chain, Your Day in Plastic, Travelling Without a Trace, and What's the Story? Okay, so this is the part where things are going to get really exciting. You've made it to the Invention Challenge. What could you invent to help protect our planet? Think of an idea to protect animals or nature, a new way to create energy, to travel or reduce waste. How about something to stop wildfires spreading, or a way to stop poachers killing animals illegally? What about some kind of edible packaging, or even compostable clothes? So, I want you to use all of the knowledge you've learned so far, as well as the ideas you've developed on your activity sheets, to come up with your very best invention to help protect our planet. So, choose from one of the two themes to help you think of an ingenious invention. So, theme one was protect biodiversity, and theme two, invent a more sustainable future. So I want you to draw your invention in the blank space on the drawing sheet. Don't forget to add colours and add labels as well to tell us all about what your invention is made from and what it does. And then fill out the bit on the left hand side of the sheet with your name and your age and your school, and tell us more about your invention. So tell us who it's invented for, who might use it, and tell us what it does. And then the most important part, to enter the challenge and receive feedback on your invention idea, upload your idea to tomorrowprojects.littleinventors.org. We can't wait to see your amazing ideas. Okay, so before I go and leave you to your inventing, I've just got some final top tips for you that might help you come up with a super, super fantastic invention. So, my first top tip for you is follow that thought. So, try to stop thinking for a minute. It's pretty much impossible. Our brains are constantly taking in information and working out how to record it and how it connects with other things that we know. So, trust your brain and try to catch a thought. Just run with it and see where it takes you. Second tip is think about who needs your help. So, thinking about someone that your invention could be for is a really great place to start. It could be someone in your family, someone in your school, it could even be an animal or an insect or plant. And imagine what they like and dislike, what they might find difficult or boring, and how you can help them. My third tip is no problem is too small to invent for. So it might be something like how to help a snail move faster, or how to water a cactus, how to protect a ladybug from the rain. No problem is too small to invent for, so let your imagination go wild. No limits. And of course, the opposite is also true. There is no problem to have a go at, no problem too big to have a go at. So, if you worry about how to reduce pollution in the atmosphere or how to travel faster or safer, then just have a go. We need all kinds of ideas to help our planet stay green. What might seem impossible today could well happen in the not so distant future. Last tip for you, break the rules. New inventions happen when we try to think or do things differently. Think outside the box. In other words, break the rules. So forget how things are supposed to work or what people have told you about how things should work and make it happen in your own way. Okay, that's it from me. Good luck and happy inventing.